So, I'm a huge fan of the Persona franchise. I played Persona 5 Royale a few times and Persona 3 Reload, as well as Persona 4 Golden. I really hope Persona 4 Revival is coming out this year. Anyway, this video is a part 1 of a series delving into the real life myths behind the Personas. In part 1, we will explore the protagonist Personas. Part 2 will explore some of the wildcard Personas. Orpheus was a character from Greek mythology. He was given a golden lyre as a gift from Apollo. He entertained many with it, including rocks and animals. He was so well skilled at it, he was considered to be the master of strings or the father of songs. However, his wife Eurydice tragically passed away. Devastated, he journeyed to the underworld to play music to Hades and Persephone. He hoped that this would compel Hades to allow Eurydice to rejoin Orpheus in the living world. Hades did just this, but he ordered Orpheus not to look behind him on his way back. Orpheus, in a moment of anxiety, forgot about this warning and looked back, causing Eurydice to be lost forever. Orpheus was later ripped apart by Dionysian Maenads after he had allegedly refused to partake in their cannibalistic orgy. Only his head and lyre remained. His head drifted all the way to the island of Lesbos, singing songs, when Muses took his lyre to the sky. The word orphan is derived from his name. Thanatos is the god of death in Greek mythology. He represented a much more peaceful way of going out. He was the son of Nyx and Erebus and the twin of Hypnos. He was detested by many. Thanatos detested them in return and was indiscriminate in the way he brought about death. It was rarely ever used in the myths. Messiah is the name ascribed to someone who is considered a saviour of humanity. It's featured in many religions, most notably Jesus Christ. Other ones include Buddha, Krishna and Maitreya. Io was one of Hera's priestesses. Zeus became infatuated with her, and to avoid Hera noticing, he covered the whole area with clouds and turned her into a heifer. Hera figured this out and requested the heifer. Zeus was left with no choice but to give her the heifer. Hera had Argus Panoptes assigned to Io to guard her. Zeus responded by sending Hermes to put Argus to sleep. He ended up setting Io free. Isis is a goddess associated with motherhood and being the ideal wife. She was the daughter of Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. She played a role in the myth of Osiris, one of the most influential stories in ancient Egypt. Set wanted Osiris' throne, so one night whilst playing a game, Set invited Osiris to come sit in his wooden box. Once Osiris stepped into it, it was slammed shut on him. Set and his friends took the chest down to the Nile River. Set later dismembered Osiris into 14 pieces and scattered them across Egypt. Isis later found them all and put them back together. During this time, they conceived their son. Horus grew up and defeated Set and eventually took the throne, becoming the god of the living. Osiris became god of the underworld. Palladium was not a deity, but rather the name of a great protector. It was the name of the wooden statue that symbolized Pallas Athena, of which Odysseus and Diomedes stole from Troy. It was later taken to Rome. In real life, it was alleged that Rome had an object that was supposed to be the real Palladium and remained in the care of the Vestal Virgins. Since the 17th century, the word Palladium generally means anything that provides some form of safety. Athena is the goddess of wisdom, courage, civilization, philosophy, and justice. She represents a more strategic side of war in contrast to her brother Ares. She famously split from her father's head fully grown and armoured after he swallowed her mother Metis. During the Trojan War, she took the name of the friend Pallas, who she killed in battle. Zeus also gifted her the Aegis, which is a piece of armour that guards her from all that is evil. Her role in the Medusa myth varies. One version has Medusa as a high priestess of Athena. She was said to be quite beautiful, so beautiful that men would come to the temple just to see her. Poseidon was one of these people. He managed to seduce her. Athena, in a fit of rage, turned Medusa into a gorgon. For those who came into contact with her, her eyes turned them to stone. Penthesilisa was one of the Amazonian queens. She was the daughter of Ares and the first queen of the Amazons, Othera. She accidentally killed her sister Hippolyta, and in order to repay for her crimes, she fought in the Trojan War. She ended up killing Achilles. Zeus in turn brought them back to life and he killed her. The moment that he laid eyes on her after lifting up her helm, he fell hard for her, so he brought her body to the Trojans for burial. He was ridiculed for this by Thersites and he speared out her eye. Achilles later killed Thersites for this. Artemisia I of Caria was the queen regnant of Halicarnassus, a Greek city-state. She took on the role after the death of her husband. She famously fought alongside Xerxes I, king of Persia, during the Second Persian invasion of Greece. She commanded ships at the battles of Artemisium and Salamis. While there aren't any first-hand accounts of her death, 13 centuries later, Photios I of Constantinople claimed she fell in love with someone called Dardanus, man from Abydos. She appeared disinterested in her, so she blinded him in his sleep. Her love for him did not dissipate, so per some advice from an oracle, she jumped from the rock of Leucas. Supposedly those who jumped from the rock were cured of passionate love. However, she died instead and was buried nearby. She was succeeded by her son Pisandelus. Hermes was the messenger god. His parents were Zeus and his mistress Maia. Hermes was also associated with athletics, commerce, powers, and healing. When he was a child, he made Apollo a lyre as a form of compensation for stealing immortal cattle. In turn, Apollo gifted Hermes his iconic caduceus. These days now used to symbolize healing. It is sometimes confused with the rod of Acephalus. He often guides those to the underworld. Hermes Trismegistus is not a god but considered to be the founder of astrology, alchemy, and magic. He was a combination of the god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. Many writings have been associated with Trismegistus and are considered a source of wisdom. Clement of Alexandria found proof that suggested that the Egyptians had at least 42 of his writings. His writings make up what is known as the Hermetica. Egery from the Quran is said to be an interpretation of Trismegistus, who is in turn associated with Enoch from the Bible. Polydeuces, also known as Pollux, was the twin brother of Castor. Both shared the same mother Leda but different fathers. Polydeuces' father was Zeus, thus making him immortal, while Castor's father was a mortal man by the name of Tyndarus. They are heavily associated with horsemanship. He also considered to be the patrons of sailors. Polydeuces wanted to share the immortality with Castor, who died, and they were turned into the Gemini constellation. Caesar was a title bestowed upon rulers that came after Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was the last dictator of the Roman Republic. As an authoritarian ruler, made enemies of many people in the Republic. Members of the Senate later had Caesar killed. His son Octavian later took on the title and created the Roman Empire. The month of July is named after him. The words Kaiser and Tsar are derived from the word Caesar. Saint Lucia of Syracuse was a Christian martyr who died what is known as the Diocletianic persecution. Lucia was born to wealthy parents in the year 283 in Syracuse on the island of Sicily. She had vowed to forever remain a virgin to God, but was later betrothed to a pagan. Lucia wanted to give away her riches to the poor. This news came to her would-be spouse, who in turn denounced it to the governor of Syracuse, Paschasius. He instructed that she be defiled in a brothel. There are many accounts of her death. One states that the Christian guards who were sent to kill her struggled to take her out. They tied her to a group of oxen, but they were unable to move her. They tied her to the logs of wood and set her on fire, but she would not burn. It was a sword through her throat that finally killed her. Later versions concern the gouging out of her eyes. One version claims that she foretold the end of Paschasius, and because of this, he ordered her eyes to be gouged out. Another version claims that she gouged out her own eyes in order to stop a suitor that was trying to woo her. During her burial, her family noticed that her eyes had miraculously reappeared. This has resulted in her being viewed as the patron saint of people with eye illnesses. She has many namesakes which encompass many churches, schools, places, and most notably the Caribbean country of St. Lucia. Juno was the wife of Jupiter in Roman mythology. She represented motherhood and marriage. She was a counterpart of Hera in Greek mythology. She watched over the women of the empire, and she had many temples throughout the realm. There was an epithet associated with her, Juno Moneta, meaning the one he wants. The peacock is also associated with her. She was symbolized in the persona. Juno was a member of the Capitoline Triad alongside Jupiter and Minerva, and centered on the Capitoline Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome. Nemesis, known as Rhamnusia, is the goddess of retribution. The most common version of her story has her as the daughter of Nyx. Some versions have her as the daughter of Nyx and Erebus. In the epic Cypria, Zeus romantically pursued Nemesis. Nemesis transformed herself into a goose in hopes of escaping him, but he transformed himself into a swan and proceeded to violate her. This resulted in creating an egg which was given to the Spartan queen Leda. A child hatched from the egg, which was Helen of Troy. She was also involved in the story of Narcissus, where she punished him for rejecting potential suitors. The punishment being that the suitor he wanted would never fall in love with him. Kalanemi is the name of 2 figures in Hinduism. The name Kalanemi generally means the failure of wheel or a portion, relating to the concept of rebirth. One of the Kalanemis is an Asura who was slain by Vishnu in the Tarakama War. He was reborn as Kamsa and later became the king of Mathura. As Kalanemi, he had 6 children. When he was reborn as Kamsa, their uncle, he killed them all. In Ramayana, Kalanemi is a Rakshasa who was tasked by Ravana to kill Hanuman. You see, Ravana was waging a war against the deity Rama. His brother was killed and Hanuman was tasked with reviving him. Ravana was not having this, so he made Kalanemi kill Hanuman. Hanuman went to get the herb and Kalanemi was waiting. He disguised himself as a sage and tried to lure him to the lake. Kalanemi was unsuccessful and Hanuman tied him up. Castor was the twin of Polydeuces/Pollux. Castor's father was Tyndaris immortal, so Castor did not share his brother's immortality. Polydeuces requested that they both be made immortal, so they ended up becoming the Gemini constellation. Psyche was the character from the well-known story of the Golden Ass. She was the daughter of the king and queen of Sicily. She was considered to be the most beautiful person on the island. Aphrodite caught wind of this, so he sent her son Eros to get her to fall in love with anyone on the island. But he fell for her instead and got Zeus to make her a goddess. Hypnos is the goddess sleep and is the son of Nyx, the twin of Thanatos. He watches over those in their sleep and he lives in a cave filled with narcotic flowers which are from the underworld. Other versions have him living in a larger cave with hypnotic flowers lining the entrance. Very little light comes in and the river Lith comes from it. This cave is said to be on the island of Lemnos. His wife was Pasithea, and in some versions his children are the gods of dreams, Morpheus, Probator, and Phantasos. His name is the origin of the word hypnosis. His Roman counterpart is Somnus. Medea was the daughter of King Aeetes and is featured in Jason and the Argonauts. She is directly descended from Helios. She helped Jason retrieve the Golden Fleece. She fell for him and later bore him 2 children. King Creon of Corinth offered him his daughter Klaus, but only under the condition that he leave his wife and children. Angered, Medea sent a dress and coronet drenched in poison. It ended up burning Klaus's flesh, and in addition, Medea killed her 2 children and left on Helios' golden chariot, and she was also a sorceress. Izanagi is a deity from Japanese mythology. He, along with his wife Izanami, created almost all of the islands minus Onogoro Island, and the other deities. When Izanami died giving birth to Hinu Kagutsuchi, in a fit of rage, Izanagi killed the god. He went to the underworld to bring her back, but found her in an uglified state. She tries to kill him and vows to kill 1,000 men each day. He in turn vows to have 1,000 men born each day. When he came back to Earth, he went to the river Woto to cleanse himself. Haleido no Kami was born from this process, Amaterasu was born from his right eye, Tsukuyomi from his left eye, and Susanoo from his nose. Izanagi evolves into Izanagi Okami. Okami means great deity in Japanese. The usage of the word Okami is meant to symbolize his standing within the 7 divine generations. Jiraiya is a ninja from Japanese folklore who rides a toad. His stories were published in the early 19th century in books known as Yolohon. A man named Isami Gentaro is wrongfully imprisoned and his family is unable to afford the rent for his farm. Isami's father, Kirakuso, travels to the countryside with his grandson so they can pay his bail. Kirakuso is killed by Master Rokion Gun. His master kidnaps the toddler and later abandons him. Ogata Shun Hiroyuki aka Jiraiya finds the grandson, Tomokichi, and raises him as his own. Many years later, Gentaro is released and works to become a samurai alongside Master Gun. These 2 work together to hunt down Jiraiya. He is eventually caught but escapes. Gentaro and his wife Sanyo are killed by Master Gun. Tomokichi later duels Master Gun and learns that it was he who killed his father and grandfather. Tomokichi later chases Master Gun to Mount Miyoko. Once arriving, Master Gun is judged by the immortal Toad Ascetic. The Toad says that due to all people that he killed, he will die for his sins. This scares Master Gun and he begs the Toad to help him. The Toad agrees to this, but he will only help him if he does not tell anyone about his encounter with the Immortal. Later, Master Gun is in a drunken stupor, brags of his encounter with the Immortal. Jiraiya later meets with the Immortal himself. The Toad recognizes the sins of Jiraiya and in spite of this decides to teach him a magic art. Master Gun is lured to a place called Kagamigagura. Master Gun and Tomokichi engage in a duel and Tomokichi decapitates Master Gun. Susanoo was the god of the seas in Japanese mythology. He was the brother of the sun goddess Amaterasu and the moon goddess Tsukuyomi. He was often at odds with his siblings. Izanagi ordered Susanoo to leave Takamagahara. Amaterasu was suspicious of this and Susanoo proposed a challenge to prove that he was sincere. This was him and Amaterasu passing objects which resulted in the birth of other deities. Susanoo insisted that the male deities were his and that the female deities were hers. Amaterasu argued the opposite. Susanoo decided to cause complete and utter chaos in Amaterasu's rice fields and defecate in her palace. In response, Amaterasu hit the heavenly rock cave which plunged Japan into total darkness. Susanoo evolves into Takahaya Susanoo. Takahaya Susanoo is the full name given to Susanoo in the Kojiki. Tomo Yuzin was a female samurai who allegedly fought in the Genpei War. There is some doubt as to whether she existed because she is not mentioned in the original accounts of the Genpei War. She is first mentioned in the Tale of the Heike. Her leader was Minamoto no Yoshitake, and under him commanded 300 samurai against the 1200 men of the Taira clan. After the war, she is said to have become a Buddhist nun and lived until at least either 89 or 90. Suzuka Gongen is a figure from Japanese mythology who appears in various forms. A thief, a celestial man, or even an oni. She is deeply connected to the story of Sakanoe no Tamura's Oni extermination. In that story, Suzuka marries the king of the Oni, Akuro, but she ends up falling in love with Sakanoe. Sakanoe was actually said to kill them. She kills the king's retainers and allows Sakanoe to enter his castle and kill him. Hareira no Akami are the goddesses of purification. They came about when Izanagi was washing himself of the filth he had accumulated from the underworld due to his failed attempt at bringing back his consort Izanami. There are 4 deities: Seiritsu-hime, Haya Akatsu-hime, Ibuki Donushi-hime, and Hayasura-hime. Konohaya Sakuri is the daughter of the god Oyamatsumi. She also had a sister, Iwanaga. Inigi no Makoto, who was the great-great-grandfather of Japan's first emperor, wanted to take Konohaya Sakuri's hand in marriage. Her father offered both their hands in marriage. If he were to take Iwanaga's hand in marriage, he would have guaranteed long and healthy lifespans for the future imperial line of Japan. However, if he were to take Konohaya's hand in marriage, their lifespans would be much shorter. He ended up choosing Konohaya Sakuri's hand in marriage instead. When she did get pregnant, however, Iniki expected that the children were not his, given that she got pregnant so quickly, so he set the maternity hut on fire instead. Amaterasu is the Japanese sun goddess, is the most revered of all Japanese deities. Amaterasu was famously born from the left eye of Izanagi. As mentioned previously, her brother Susanoo caused havoc in her palace and killed one of her priestesses. Distraught, Amaterasu fled into a cave which plunged the world into darkness. The other deities tried to lure her out by putting a mirror next to the cave and cheered and yelled at her to come out. Eventually she did, and when seeing her own reflection, she was fascinated by it and came back out, thus returning the light to the world once more. Amaterasu is also said to be the ancestor of the imperial lineage. Amaterasu evolves into Sumeo Okami, a name given to the goddess Amaterasu. It means Imperial Great Goddess. Take Mikazuchi is the Shinto god of thunder, and was born for the blood on the sword that Izanagi used to kill Kagatsuchi. Take Mikazuchi and his brother Fatsunushi were asked by Amatsukami to come down from the heaven to pacify the Izumo deities. He is believed to have participated in the first sumo match. Take Mikazuchi challenged Take Minakata. Mikazuchi won by crushing Minakata's arms and tossing them aside. He is often depicted wrestling down a giant catfish Namazu that causes Japan's earthquake. Dairoku Tenmao, or the Demon King of the Sixth Realm. He is a figure in Japanese Buddhism that tries to tempt Buddhists away from the Buddha's teachings. Oda Nobunaga, the 16th century warlord who conquered Japan, was given the title of Dairoku Tenmao. Curiously, there is only one source that makes this claim, the Portuguese Catholic Louis Freud. According to Freud, he used this title to sign a reply letter for Takeda Shingen. Japanese historians have since disputed this because they don't believe he would have made himself an enemy of Buddhism at a time when Buddhism was used as a political tool. Dairoku Tenmao evolves into Takechi Zaiten. Takechi Zaiten is an alternative name for Dairoku Tenmao. It comes from the highest of the six realms where the demon lord resides. The meaning is, having pleasure from watching over things change. Himiko was the shaman queen of an ancient country called Yamato Koku. Historians have debated where Yamato Koku was, either northern Kyushu or Yamato province. Earliest records talking about her existence are in records of the Three Kingdoms. She is said to have come to the throne when she was 20 in approximately 190 and reigned until her death in 247. She was highly revered among her people and said to possess mystical powers. She never married and lived in a beautiful palace, which she shared with 1,000 women and one man as her servants. She is thought to be buried in Hashikaka Kofu. Hanzion Bosatsu, whose literal translation is Bodhisattva who observes the mundane voices, is the Japanese name of the Chinese goddess Guanxi Pusa, the goddess of mercy and compassion. In Buddhism, she is depicted as wearing a white robe and carrying a jar of pure water. She wished to aid those who needed her assistance, but she only had 2 hands, so Amitabha Buddha granted her 1,000 arms so she could help others. Due to the popularity of her story, she received many translations in other East Asian countries. Kuzion is an alternative name for Kanzeon. It means light of mundane voices. Kin Tokidoji is the name the folk hero Kintaro adopted when he grew up. Kintaro is a folk hero from Japanese folklore. According to most versions of the story, his mother was said to have become pregnant by a clap of thunder caused by a red dragon. He was raised by a Yama-awa upon which Mount Ashigara and is said to have superhuman strength. Given that there weren't any children around, he befriended animals instead. He later became a follower of Minamoto no Yoromitsu. He was also frequently seen with a tomahawk which he would use to help others fell trees. He is said to have been based on Sakata Kintoki, a retainer for Minamoto no Yoromitsu. Kamui are divine spirits from Ainu mythology. One in particular is Kimon Kamui, the Kamui of bears and mountains, the one Teddy's second persona is based on. A ritual once performed by the Ainu was obtaining the bear carbon resident in the village for a year. Once the year passes, it is shot by an arrow so that it is returned to the heaven. Kamui evolves into Kamui Moshiri. Kamui Moshiri is the home of the Kamui. Sukuna Hikona is a dwarf deity from Japanese mythology and represents healing and sake brewing. He also represents hot springs. His name means the small lord of renown. He has been frequently paired with Okinanushi. One day, Okinanushi spots a small boat on the waves made of metaplexus. Okinanushi picks him up and Sukuna bites him on the cheek. He brought the small being to the scarecrow god, Kuwabiko. Kuwabiko said that his name was Sukuna and he was the son of Kamimasubi, who was part of a trio of the creator deities Takamimasubi and Amano Minakanushi. Kamimasubi explained that Sukuna fell out of their fingers. Sukuna helped Okinanushi create medicines and cures for diseases and ailments. In addition, he is also a master of magic. His shrine can be found at Doshimachi in Osaka. Yamato Takeru is a Japanese folk hero who is semi-mythical and was the son of Emperor Keiko. His original name was Osu and Yamato Takeru was the title given to him. Osu had quite the temperament, so his father sent him away to what is now the eastern part of Shimane Prefecture. He managed to defeat the rebels. He was said to be half human and half god. On his way eastwards, he met his aunt who gave him the sword Amano Murakama no Tsurugi. He is said to have been lured into a trap by a lord he wanted to burn to death in the field. He used the sword to cut the grass, but he discovered that while it removed the fuel, it could also power the wind and thus swing the fire around with the sword, so he took advantage of this ability to sweep the blaze toward the lord and the men. He is said to have died from a curse from the god of Mount Ibiki and transformed into a white bird and flew away. Yamato Takeru evolves into Yamato Tsuragi. It is an epithet for the Japanese emperors. Arsène is based on Arsène Lupin, a character created by Maurice Leblanc. The first Arsène Lupin story was published in 1905. It was introduced in a series of short stories. Arsène is the gentleman thief and the criminal counterpart to Sherlock Holmes. In his own stories, he encountered Herlock Sholmes. Many of his stories involve a lot of fantastical elements like the Fountain of Youth and the Godstone. He is thought to have been based on Maurice Jacob, a French anarchist and thief. Satanael, who is considered to be an interpretation of Lucifer, was an archangel in the second book of Enoch who led an uprising against God. Some other interpretations say that he was an angel of Yaldabaoth, and when he realized that Yaldabaoth was a false god, he gave humanity the power to liberate themselves from the false god. The Cathars believe that Satanael was the angelic name of Satan before Michael changed it and sealed him in hell. Raoul, the third form of Ren's persona, was another alias of Arsène Lupin that he used. Captain Kidd, the first persona of Ryuji, is based off William Kidd, a pirate in the 17th century who functioned in the Caribbean. In 1695, the Earl of Belmont gave him a royal commission to hunt down pirates and French ships in the Indian Ocean, which he did on his ship Adventure Galley. He ended up failing on his mission to do so. In 1698, he scored his greatest prize, the Cudar Merchant. However, his reputation in England changed for worse, and he was eventually captured in Boston and sent back to England and put on trial. He was eventually hanged in 1701. Captain Kidd is thought to have buried treasure somewhere, perhaps on the Gardiner Island or Oak Island. As for the Cudar Merchant, it was found in 2007 in the waters of the Dominican Republic. Ryuji's second persona is Seitan Taisei. It comes from the story Journey to the West. The protagonist Sun Wukong is an anthropomorphic monkey born from a rock. He masters 72 transformations and gained 72 abilities, like the power to transform into animals. He accompanies the monk Tan Sanzang, Zhu Baijie, Sha He Hishang on a white dragon horse to obtain Buddhist sutras. Sun Wukong has many abilities. These include supernatural strength, fast speed, and because he's the king of the monkeys, he knows about all the monkeys that have been born. The name Seitan Taisei is a Japanese translation of the title he gave himself after trying to win the respect of the heavens, Kitan Daisheng. Ryuji's third persona, William, is of course the first name of Captain Kidd. Anne's first persona, Carmen, is based off Carmen, a chain-smoking gypsy created by Prosper Mérimée for his novella first published in 1845. Carmen was the original femme fatale. She would often target men using her beauty and charm, but later ended up breaking the relationship due to boredom. She was eventually killed by one of her lovers because she had left him. Carmen knew that he would kill her, but allowed himself to be killed by him because she would rather have died not been bound to someone. Hecate was a sorceress who originated from Greek mythology. She is associated with witchcraft, light, night, and crossroads, drugs, and the moon. However, it is thought she may have originated in Anatolia, among the Carians due to similar sounding names among their brethren like Hecatus and Hecatonis. There is also a potential Egyptian origin too, as a similar deity named Heket exists, and the word Heke in Egyptian means magic, and is also the name of the god of magic. She was worshipped in Greece and has a cult site in Lagina, Anatolia. Anne's third persona, Celestine, takes its name from an actress that played Carmen. Celestine Gully-Murray was the third actress to play Carmen on stage. She proved vital to the tone of the play as the management wanted it toned down, but she, alongside Georges Bizet, resisted these attempts. On the back of her jacket is the lyric, Liber ni in liber angura, or She was born free and she will die free, which comes from one of the songs. She sings this in the climax scene in Carmen. Her last name, Gally-Marie, is used as a classification of those who sing in the light and mezzo soprano range. Zora is a character created by Johnston McCulley in 1919. Zora is a masked heroine and his true name is Don Diego de la Vega. He is a California native of Spanish descent and resides in Los Angeles during Mexican rule. He fights on behalf of the people against the tyrannical government. He debuted in the novel The Curse of Capistrano. He has been in live action numerous times, most notably in the 1950s Disney TV series and in later films in the late 90s and early 2000s. In those films, he was a much older man portrayed by Anthony Hopkins, and Antonio Banderas, who portrayed Alejandro Murrieta, who was trained to succeed in. Zora evolves into Mercurius. We don't really need to go into much too detail here. Mercurius is based on Mercury, the Roman equivalent of Hermes. We've already covered Hermes. The Romans viewed him the same way the Greeks viewed him. He has a planet named after him and also lends his name to the element. Mercurius evolves into Diego. Diego is referencing the real name of Zora, Don Diego de la Vega. The first persona of Yosuke Kitagawa is Goemon. Ishikawa Goemon, born as Gorokichi, was a Japanese outlaw most notable for his attempted assassination of the shogun Hideyoshi Toyotomi. He was later buried alive alongside his son in 1594. There are only two historical sources detailing Goemon's existence, which were made after his death. Over the years, more fantastical stories sprung up, depicting him in the same vein as Robin Hood. Goemon rolls into Camus' Susanoo. We don't really need to go into much detail about this one since we've already covered it. Only in Izumo no Kuni Fudoki is he mentioned having the Camus word in front of his name, which means God in archaic Japanese. Camus' Susanoo evolves into Gorokichi, which is the childhood name of Ishikawa Goemon. Makoto's first persona is Johanna. Johanna is based on Pope Joan, a woman who allegedly reigned as Pope for a short time. Her existence remained unquestioned until the 16th century when religious groups started becoming skeptical of the story. Historians have also expressed this belief and believe the story was concocted to discredit the church. The story goes that she initially dressed like a man to please a lover, and eventually rose through the ranks of the church and was eventually elected Pope. Her true gender identity was revealed when she reportedly gave birth during a procession and later died. It was said that the future church processions avoided the area and later crafted a ritual to ensure future popes were male. Anat was a Western Semitic goddess of war, love and sex, and also associated with wild animals. She plays a role in the Baal cycle text. Her father El called upon her to assist with the setting up of the coronation of Yam. However, she favoured her brother Baal. She later gets the support of Asherah and pleads with her father to let her brother build his own palace. In her temple, she reenacts a battle and proceeds to purify herself. Later on in the second half of the epic, she proceeds to avenge her brother by killing Mot and brings back Baal to life again with the help of Shapesh. Anat evolves into Agnes. Agnes was the name prescribed to Pope Joan. For the Futaba's first persona, the Necronomicon is of Lovecraftian origin. Its original name is Al-Azith. The fictional tome made its earliest appearance in The Hound. According to Lovecraft, the tome tells the truth about all magical beings that have existed on the earth since the beginning of time was created in the 8th century by Abdul Ahasuerus. It is in essence a book of forbidden knowledge. The Necronomicon awakens into Prometheus. Prometheus was the Titan who sided with Zeus during the Titan War. His name means forethought or foresee. Zeus ended up throwing him into Tartarus alongside his brother Epimetheus. They were both tasked with bestowing creations along the world. Epimetheus created beasts and gave them all the gifts he could, but this left Prometheus with nothing to give to humanity. Prometheus later taught mankind how to trick the gods, so Zeus retaliated by having him chained to a rock and having his liver eaten every day by an eagle for eternity. It was only until Heracles freed him from his punishment. Prometheus awakens into Al-Azith. Al-Azith is the original Arabic name for the Necronomicon. Harry's first persona, Milady, is based on a character from the book The Three Musketeers, Milady de Winter. In the story, she holds a grudge against the story's main hero, D'Artagnan, because she was a criminal branded with the fleur-de-lis. Her ex-husband Argus was also the D'Artagnan's mentor. She later ends up getting beheaded for her crimes. Astarte is a goddess who was worshipped in the Middle East, primarily in Ugarit. She was the goddess of love, sex, war, and hunting. She was believed to be the consort of Baal. In the Baal cycle, she sided with Baal in the battle against the sea god. They both took pity on Yaruk, the moon god who did not have the greatest reputation among the gods. She was also worshipped in Egypt. The ancient Egyptians took the story of the Baal cycle and adapted it into their own pantheon, notably replacing Baal with Seth. Astarte evolves into Lucy. Lucy Hay, the Countess of Carlisle, was the basis of Milady de Winter in The Three Musketeers. She aided both sides of the Second English Civil War. When the war broke out, she chose the side of the Royalists, but before that she was with the Parliamentarians. Lucy was later arrested in 1649 and was released on bail a year later. She never regained her prior influence and died in 1660. The first persona of Goro Akechi is Robin Hood. I won't go into too much detail here. Robin Hood is the most famous English outlaw of all time. He's an archer and swordsman who stole from the rich and gave to the poor. He often clashed with the Sheriff of Nottingham and developed a relationship with Maid Marian. Goro has an additional persona, Loki, in his arsenal. Loki is a trickster god from Norse mythology. For those who have read Marvel comics and watched the films, you might be surprised to learn that Loki is not the son of Odin and Frigg, but the son of Farbuti and Laufey. He's married to Sigyn, and they share 2 sons together. In addition, he is the father of Hel through Angerboda. Loki, being the son of Jotun and a goddess, plays the role in how he is depicted in the pantheon. Loki has the unique ability to shapeshift into animals. Through Angerboda, he assigned many creatures like Fenrir, the wolf who befriended to kill Odin at Ragnarok. Loki evolves into Hereward. Hereward the Wake was an Anglo-Saxon nobleman who led the resistance against the Norman invasion. His actual existence isn't disputed, however, many stories detailing his exploits have been found to have been somewhat embellished or contradictory. One example is the note of Hereward in the Peterborough Chronicle. This was written in a monastery which he is said to have sacked 50 years after he supposedly raided. Samura's first persona, Cendrillon, is based on Cinderella. The most well-known version is by Charles Perrault, which introduced the familiar elements like the glass slippers, the fairy godmother, and the pumpkin. It was eventually adapted into an opera called Cendrillon. Cendrillon is actually the French name of Cinderella. Cendre means ash in French. Cendrillon evolves into Venetus/Freya. In Norse mythology, Venetus is the goddess of love, sex, and fertility. She is also said to have assisted in childbirth, and people prayed to her for good times. Venetus is just one of a handful of names, with Freya being the name she is most commonly known by. Freya often received one half of the dead Norse at a Folkvagna, while Odin got the other half at Valhalla. Venetus evolves into Ella. Ella is the real name of Cinderella. The first persona of Dr. Maraki is Azathoth. Azathoth is a character from Lovecraftian mythology. It's also known by other names such as the Blind Idiot God, the Nuclear Chaos, the Deep Dark, etc. Azathoth is considered to be too horrible to be described and is the ancestor god of some of the other Lovecraftian gods like Nyarlathotep, Yog, Solthoth, and Cthulhu. Azathoth is said to be at the center of all infinity. Part of the reason why he is called the Blind Idiot God is because while he is creating other deities, he's completely unaware of himself. The gods keep him sleeping with music. In later stories written by other authors, they posit that all of reality is actually Azathoth's dream. If he were to wake it up, well, it would all end. Azathoth evolves into Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon was created by Ironsoft and has its roots in Gnostic and Abrahamic mythos. He is taught within the teachings of Kabbalah. A form of Jewish mysticism. He is distinct from the Adam featured in the Bible. In other interpretations, he is considered to be the personification of the Messiah. His existence stands above the four worlds in Kabbalah: emanation, creation, formation, and action.